but picked up a nice win over Arkansas. 86-75 that final score. Over Oklahoma, I should say. 86-75 there. Joined by Pete Yanity, our good friend over there in Spartanburg. I tell you what, I think that for any team, for any player that's struggling individually, it's just nice to see the ball go in the basket one time just for a confidence standpoint. And I think for a team like South Carolina, looking just to pick up a win and get some momentum because they've been playing well, they've been playing competitive basketball. To pick up a win was nice for Coach Paris and company. What was your overall take about getting that win over the Sooners?
A good start was a big part of the story. They jumped out 21-8, and Elijah Strong, when he's on, he's one of the best players in the league. He ended up scoring 13 of their first 17 points last night. And then ended up with 17 for the game. He was kind of the first half guy, Michi Johnson the second half guy. Tell you what's interesting with the South Carolina team. So they're 2-4 in the SEC. They got absolutely drilled last week at Arkansas, and that's a game that can happen to a team that's usually going to be at best a middle of the pack team. And I think folks would agree if this team finishes near the middle of the SEC, it would be an achievement. But I'd love to see, and I haven't done the study, and I probably should have had a crack staff of researchers who are working on other scientific projects in our building right now, wearing their white lab coats. But I should probably have had them work on a number of the final 5 minutes of games, particularly SEC games. What's the point differential? What's the scoring margin difference for USC? Because couldn't close the deal against Vanderbilt, and that was a game at home against a team that I think was still unbeaten at the time. But that was a winnable game. They just had a lull at the wrong time, and Vandy had a couple of runs. Should have closed the deal at home against Georgia. Couldn't do that. At Auburn over the weekend, nip and tuck game. They eventually, lose that game by 4 points. But what happened in the final 5 minutes there? Right. And then last night, you just kind of felt like after they built this big lead, they're up by just 3 at the half. I don't know if we've talked about this, but the best way to kind of have an idea as to how a game might play out is at halftime, look at each team, look at the scoring margin, take the lead team, look at what their field goal percentage is, look at what the trailing team's field goal percentage is, and then split the difference in half. So if I'm up by 10, for example, at the half, then I want to be shooting at least, the margin needs to be 10% field goal when cut in half. That's going to tell me I'll probably win that game. So last night, South Carolina's up by 3. They were shooting 47% from the field. So was Oklahoma. So it reflected basically a tie game. But if you're in a situation where you're up by 5 at the half, but the other team's out shooting you or is within that half margin of field goal percentage, that's usually going to portend. So Oklahoma in the second half, South Carolina gets the lead back up around 10. We kind of had a working margin of between like 6 and 10 points. Oklahoma got as close as 5. But you just kind of watch the last stages of that game, and I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, how are they going to blow it this time? What's going to go wrong? Or who's going to get hot at the right time for Oklahoma? Hit a couple of threes, change the whole look of the game. So that the big thing has been closing out games. They're an 11-8 team. I think if you look at their body of work, for the most part, they've probably won the games they should have to this point overall, and lost the games they should have. But, the Georgia game at home, they led that most of the way. The Auburn game on the road, that would have been a great game to steal. They stole one at LSU. That was a very good win. And then the win the other night against a decent Oklahoma team, not great. I mean, that could be an NIT team in Oklahoma. I don't know enough about them right now. But, I don't know that if that's an NCAA team, and maybe I'll be proved wrong over the next 6 weeks. But anyway, it was a good win for them, and it's one they really needed for mental purposes as much as anything.
They're getting to get their first taste of buckyball here on Saturday, and then after that, a tough one against Florida. You can't really expect them to be able to handle business there. But when you look at these next 5 games, what would be a respectable record after?
Yeah, they've got some tough ones ahead. I just think for the SEC, I mean, it's not as great as it has been, but it's still a tough league. And I'm always concerned when I see that the guy leading in scoring, in this case, Michi Johnson, who's at 15.1, he's up above 17 per game in the SEC through the first 6 games. I never like to have the leading scorer as my leading assist guy. Mm-hmm. Next on the team is more of a big Mike Sharvjomps, who plays more inside. He's second on the team in assists. I think against a team like that, you better be ready to handle the ball. You better be efficient. South Carolina will go into that game giving it up about 10 times a game. So they've done a decent job protecting the ball. But against Bucky McMillan teams, they're going to throw a lot of defense, a lot of full court pressure at you. But most importantly, you also better, after a made basket, you better be able to set up in your half court defense as well, because they will hurry it into the front court, try to shoot it early in the shot clock, but they will move the ball from wing to wing. They reverse it a lot. And I'm sure Lamont Paris, who overlapped by 3 years in the Southern Conference. Bucky McMillan got to Samford in 2020. Lamont Paris got the South Carolina job in 22. So they were going against each other for 2 years. Right. And in year number 2 at Samford is when Bucky McMillan really got Bucky ball going there. So no doubt that they'll be really focused on the transition defense, and not only transition defense, but the fact that Samford, Texas A&M will hurry it into the front court, but then try to set up the shot. They won't necessarily go for the kill once they hurry it into the front court.
Absolutely. South Carolina got double figures from all 5 of its starters. However, only got 9 points from the bench. When they got, but do you think that Coach Paris thinks this is a viable blueprint moving forward, where you get most of your production from your 5 guys that start the game? I know they're the most talented. A lot of times they give you the best matchup there. But I wonder if you could pick his brain about how much he actually wants more bench scoring and or more just point distribution altogether.
I'm just looking over the minutes here. I want to make sure I've got it right. I can't pick his brain, but just kind of reading his stat sheet, Johnson's the only one getting more than 30 minutes a game, and that's fine. Sharv Jumps is really close. He's at 29.7. But then they basically have 3 other guys in the 20s, and everyone else is at and Eli Strong's at 18. You can tell he's the kind of guy that can only go in stretches. They'd probably love to see Eli Strong in the 25 to 30-minute range, but it's a dichotomy. Basically, 6 guys are getting the bulk of the minutes. Everyone else is down in the, there's one at 15, Grant Polk, whose playing time has increased. They're maybe playing him more than they thought they would. I don't know that for a fact. Everyone else is 11 or 10 or below that. So I think what Lamont Paris has identified is we've now gone to the SEC play. I'm going to trust 6 or 7 guys. Therefore, your bench scoring is not going to be what it is. And that's fine. I'm sure Duke's bench scoring is probably not great when held up against the success of their team.
Right.
But I think bench scoring can be a really misleading stat, because, again, if I've got, 4 starters playing 30 minutes plus a game, and those guys are all averaging double figures, and you'll see a lot of teams like that, chances are you're not going to have a whole lot of scoring off the bench. And a lot of times your bench scoring stat is skewed because you took a guy who either you're unhappy with his defense, you're trying to send a message and take him out of the starting lineup, and you want him to watch until the under 16, but then he'll get in there and play his 30 minutes.
Right.
And so, and sometimes you have 6 guys who could start, and so it's kind of skewed. I live off of points in the paint, second chance points, and 3-point percentage obviously is important, because 3 is more than 2, at least that's what they tell me. And points in the paint means that I can go play physically when I have to, because there are nights when I'm not going to hit a lot of 3s, and I've got to be able to score. And you look at it, Clemson lost last night to NC State. I don't know the final number if they led points to paint. They went into that game with 16 wins and were 15-1 when they won points in the paint.
Right.
So I hold that up as an example.